I think one of the coolest parts about people is that people have different personalities. Some people are kind of high strung, some people are really relaxed, some people are really outgoing, some people are really shy. Some people love to be unique. Some people like to be accommodating and supportive. All of those things are just fine. However, one big myth that really drives me crazy is the myth that social introversion is like a mental health concern. Hi, this is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, coming at you today with a video that certainly can apply to kids and will apply it a little bit to things I run into as a child psychologist, but mostly this video is a bit broader. This video focuses on a myth, and that is the myth in American culture that social introversion is more or less a mental health problem. Now, I can appreciate that probably not everyone believes this myth, but hey, that's true of most myths in general. I run into, though, a lot of situations where people basically seem to believe that the further you are towards introversion, that is to say, on the spectrum from extroverts to introverts, then the worse off you are from a mental health perspective. So today in this video, I'm going to first talk about why I believe this myth exists, particularly in American culture. And then number two, talk just a little bit about the problems it causes me as a practicing child psychologist. So I believe that this myth effectively exists because in American culture, we very much favor being an extrovert. It's true. Everything in American culture is about how charming you are, how good at talking to people you are, about how successful and accomplished you are, about displaying status and things like that. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things per se, that is to say, being skilled at persuasion, being charming, having a lot of friends, having a lot of contacts, a lot of associates, having a lot of likes on a post or a video. Nothing wrong with those things in the least. There's also nothing wrong with being an introvert. I guess maybe it'd be a good idea for me to define introversion a little bit, as most people have heard of it. So introverts tend to be more reclusive. Introverts tend to be more comfortable alone at home or with a few people they know quite well. Introverts tend to be more shy, sensitive, intellectual, I suppose. Introverts tend to get overstimulated and overwhelmed and even outright anxious or stressed out in new social situations or social situations where there's a lot going on, like a larger group of people. Social introverts tend to emotionally recharge by being more alone and at home, in contrast with extroverts who tend to recharge by being around a bunch of people. So I think that most people would agree that American culture really favors extroverts. And so there's a real tendency to be like, oh, that person only has so many friends on Facebook, so they must not be successful and happy. So I think that's the origin of the myth. Now, the impact that this myth has on kids and my practice as a child psychologist, well, in order to answer that question, let me ask you this. So if I asked you, describe for me your idea of a psychologically healthy kid, I think there's a good chance that you probably would tell me something like this. Has lots of friends, gets good grades, able to get people to like him quickly, good at talking to people, involved in several activities at school, well-liked in general. Now, is there anything wrong with those things that we just listed? No, nothing wrong in the least. However, it's interesting, though, that that list did not include things like hesitant to go along with the crowd, comfortable with being alone, comfortable with maybe just having a few friends, shy, sensitive, thoughtful, reserved, maybe. So again, am I saying that our notions of what healthy kids are wrong? Well, no, I'm not so sure that they're wrong. I'm just more concerned that they're kind of incomplete, and that introverts kind of get thrown by the wayside or get treated as though there's something sort of wrong with them. And I really do hear that. Sometimes by even just very well-intentioned folks who bring kids into me thinking that social introversion is more or less inherently sort of like a pathology. And in fact, understandably, I have to help parents very frequently understand the difference between, say, introversion and depression, introversion and anxiety, even introversion and autism spectrum disorder, because I've run into a lot of folks who more or less believe that social introversion is the same thing as autism spectrum disorder, and that's just not true. And that's a subject for a whole other video, I suppose. The point is, there is a big myth out there in our culture, particularly with kids, that introversion is somehow a pathology. And that if your child is quite introverted, then that's effectively because there's some kind of mental health condition going on, or that the introversion itself is a mental health problem. And these things are just not true. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned a little bit of something about social introversion, and perhaps you can tell me more about your thoughts on American culture and its relationship with extroversion and introversion down in the comments below. For now, this is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, signing off.